posted. So I'll just clap real fast. All right. So what you're saying, we were talking about your favorite thing.
My favorite thing. Like I said, I mean, when it ended and whenever I went out there, I mean, just the completion of the project, that was probably my favorite part is we put a year into this project. So a year is a year of my life. So, I mean, the fact that it was like coming to a screeching halt, I mean, everything, just going through the whole thing, all of that took 1 year to come up with, all of it. So, I mean, just putting an end to something and then going off and doing something else. We did other projects in between, of course, but this was a project that was big in the making. We knew after we did our Roaring 20 show, we wanted to come up with something that topped that. And the only thing I could even think of that could even top that is something about Egypt in some way. It takes a big caliber to even pull something like that off. And I knew that I think I had probably the resources and the potential to pull something like that off. And I think if you would have asked me maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I wasn't quite ready for it. But this was a time after that Roaring 20s fashion show that I knew that I was ready for it. Because after that I had become like kind of critically acclaimed, so I was used to being jabbed at. So if I make a mistake, somebody's going to say something. So I mean, now I mean at this point I can take the criticism really well from people rather than, because artists are sensitive. It's really difficult to take critique when you have put your everything into it. Artists put everything into their work. It's just what they do. This is like a form of expression for me. So I really wanted to make sure I did it justice and told this story from, all the way from the creation of the Egyptian mythology all the way down to the end of ancient Egypt. And this is what defines Egypt. So everything all the way up until this point is built on these stories. Right.
And just looking at the footage here,
yeah.
I mean, so after a fashion show like this, who gets what and who gets all the costumes? How's that divvy out when that happens?
I have some friends of mine who work in the drag world. I give some of them away to some struggling drag artists. There's a lot of people out there who I have a lot of resources that help me pull off a lot of what I can do. And I never forgot that time when I didn't have those resources. So what I do is I usually go and help entertainers give them some of the resources that I never had, so they can succeed, because elevating them benefits me. Them going around saying, "Oh, Chuck helped me," that helps me. Leaving behind good footsteps, that helps me, and that's what preserves a legacy. Being difficult, being unmanageable, being nasty and diva like and stuff like that. That's not a good legacy for anybody. There's a time and a place to be difficult, especially when it's necessary. But when it's unnecessary for no reason, I don't think it's necessary to be difficult. Right. So I'm one of those people. I'm not going to be difficult unless it's necessary. I'm a very humble person, and I'm a very, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get me there. But once I get there, then, I have to do everything I can to take myself down from that place. But, I don't like to get to that level.
I love this guy's outfit here too.
Oh yeah.
Explain what's that thing on the head? Like what's that called?
That's the sun. That right there is the sun disk, and that is also, that's a headpiece. Of course, Ra was a falcon god, and so was I think he was the eagle. I'm not sure. And then his son Horus was the falcon god.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just
the god of the sun.
I mean, look at all these outfits coming out. I mean, just the hours it took to just create all these different fashions.
Oh yeah.
How many fashion designers was it? It was like 6 or
5.
5.
And then 6, including me. I had some. I worked with a bunch of people and had some costumes made. And I even went to a couple of costume stores and bought some stuff too as well. But I styled by me. So wow. Yeah. But the rest of them were all custom from the ground up.
And when you were styling, did you think of people like LA for certain spots?
Oh yeah, definitely. All of them had a certain spot. Each model had a character. Each of them had, and I did that on purpose. Mm-hmm. We did that in the Roaring 20 show, and it worked quite well. And after we got, because like I said, each fashion show is a story in my career. So the first 4 seasons are drag stories from whenever I worked in the LGBTQ community. So after a certain point, I met LA and Danielle at the end of season 4, and then we give birth to the next generation of my career, which is in the world of fashion. So of course, in season 5, you got to see a great deal of Danielle take a rather dominant dominant role in this one, and then in this season she took a rather more of a dominant role in this one because that's what happened. I met these two girls and they introduced me to the entire fashion scene.
And when you got the call, did you research the characters? Like, did you kind of figure out what they were kind of like the backstory on these characters, so you kind of knew what kind of attitude to kind of bring when you went on?
Well, I mean, Chuck is such an amazing creator. He already had everything, you know.
Oh, he gave you all the...
Yeah. So all I had to do
They all had to do homework.
Yeah, read up.
It's either lots of rehearsals and little research, or lots of research and little rehearsals. And this was lots of research, little rehearsals.
And yeah, you can
and
definitely tell. Yeah, you can definitely tell. So I mean, it turned out amazing.
Yeah.
That's why I found it was so fascinating, because the storyline, which we were talking about, how great it was, but it seemed like everybody kind of knew a character when they came on. It wasn't like they were just walking with fashion down the runway. They were actually, it seemed like they had some kind of like walk to or their character, and they all kind of knew who they were.
It was like there's the sun and there's the universe was rotating around it almost, and that's what that first piece was about with Raw, and like you saw in the commercial where they were all walking around him because he sent his kids out into the world and they landed on Earth, and they created Earth. Apparently, that's what the mythology says.
Did you know you wanted to be a mummy when you?
Well, nobody. I actually had that costume for somebody else, and he dropped out at the last minute, so I had to go on there and be Osiris.
Oh, okay.
So, because I look similar to him in some of the deities that they, and plus, you know, I just beat prostate cancer, so this whole afterlife thing was kind of like a bit. It was. I just, you know me. I become the part.
Right.
Jesus.
This was the blue is so beautiful.
Stunning.
And that was a
stunning,
last minute decision on the headpiece to put that on her. I didn't think it was going to be a good match, but it is an Isis headpiece, so she had to wear it, and you were being introduced as Isis,
Right.
Yeah. And Isis did play a really large role in the whole Egyptian mythology, so her being in there as much as she could really pulled off that illusion, and that's set.
That's awesome too.
And our amazing photographers and electrician, if you looked at it from this angle when it was being filmed, it almost looked like the lights were in shape of a pyramid, almost.
Oh, I liked it. Yeah, how it went in. Yeah.
Yeah, we always do a different light design each time too.
Yeah.
Everything's different. The set, everything has to be different.
You had a bunch of shout out to some of the photographers there.
Jim Trotter. Let me look. Gosh, Jim Trotter.
You had a lot.
Curtis
back there.
Gibbs.
Yeah, Curtis Gibbs. He's great.
Jonathan Frey. Tim Roth. Keenan Hill. You.
I was back there. Yeah.
Yeah, you were back there.
But I was kind of I didn't want to get in their way, so I tried to get just different shots.
Barb Ham, and she had another. Let me get her name too, real quick. I don't want to blank on her name because she was incredible, and she sold tickets and everything. She just did not want this show to be missed. And that's the thing. We develop fans along the way. These devotees. And they stick with us throughout the entire show, and the models too. The models, they just love what we do because it's like she said, it's an experience. It lasts forever. It's not just a regular commercial fashion show where you're out there showcasing these designs, because that's what runway. That's the reason why people complain about it. There's not a lot of models don't make a lot of money in runway shows is because you're showcasing. It's not that that's a different type of modeling. The type of stuff that models really get paid for is like magazine stuff and photo shoots and stuff like that. Photographer, big commercialized stuff, and that's what we're getting into. I'm going to be creating my own modeling agency soon. So,
oh wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, so we're going to be getting more into that, getting my people paid, pretty much, and kind of using my show as sort of like an entry point, which is what it has been already. I created a list of all the events that I photographed in my work in the fashion world, and I compiled it all into a list. And whenever my models graduate from my show, I call them graduating from my show, because something like this, it deserves a graduation. Yeah,
it was amazing. I was doing some interviews with the audience members. Somebody's boyfriend that was in it, they traveled from like Springfield or somewhere far or Kansas City just to be in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, so you definitely got some dedicated models.
Oh yeah, I mean, this show has been across the Midwest now, so we've got a following across the Midwest. So even that's why we have to do the digital release too, because we have people who can't make it. So that's why the digital release is just as important as the actual show, if not more important, because it's at this point, like I said, after you release it, it's immortal, and it's subject to be scrutinized and be dissected, and everybody develops an opinion of it, and just that whole creative process leading up to it. That's the part that I love. And then after you send it out there into the universe, I mean, that's when it's over with pretty much. Right. Now we got to go out there and promote it.
Right.
Just like making a movie.
But you're getting like good positive feedback from it though, right?
Oh, nothing but positive feedback, no negativity at all. People, I think, understand us a lot more now because of this show. People are not afraid to work with us anymore because people have say some horrible things about me. And a lot of it's because they haven't I either wasn't available for them to be a part of the show, like the spots have already been taken and stuff like that. Because when we announced that we put out a show, that we're working on another show, I mean, our models flocked to our show like quicker. I mean, I swear, like within a post. I mean, I have people blowing up my inbox. So I mean, as soon as we run out of cast members, that's it. And so like, there's a lot of people out there who probably want to work with me, but because of these few individuals who we weren't available to work with at that time, or we didn't have the opportunities available for them at the time, had spread these nasty lies about me, and then here we are, and I'm in this kind of dilemma. And I mean, I do have a lot of haters in St. Louis. I mean, it's no secret. Yeah, right?
It seems like there's a lot of haters everywhere.
I know, but I mean, in this city, I mean, I've been here 10 years. I mean, it's just like the things that I hear about me, I'm just stop. Okay, the lies. I mean, I got called a racist. I've been called transphobic. I've been called all kinds of things. I'm none of these things. They know nothing about my career in the LGBTQ community. They know nothing about the diversity in my show. They know nothing about the people who are involved in my personal life or my cousins, my family, all that stuff. They know nothing about that. So when you develop an opinion like that, it's ignorant.
Right.
And it's insulting to the people who actually work with me and the people who want to work with me. And so I'm just like, stop spreading these lies. Just stop it. And now it's just to the point where I got to start suing them.
These people that say it, though, you find out who they are. Are they in the same industry, or do they want to be? I mean, are they?
There's a couple in the fashion industry. I don't have a lot of haters in the fashion industry like I do in the LGBTQ community. When I left that industry in 2017, that's when everything kind of went up in flames for me, because I was no longer available to them. And whenever they reached out to me for my services, like photography or commercials and stuff like that, I'm like, well, this is how much I charge. And back then, a lot of the work that I did was voluntary, because, a lot of the work that you do in the LGBT community is charity work. And, I didn't want to be seen as exploiting the community or anything like that. I wanted to make sure that I gave away my services. I supported the community, everything from top to bottom. And by the time I left the community in 2017, I think I had gone as far as I could. I mean, like, I had gotten myself, like, as far as the pageantry systems in that world, I'd gotten myself to the top of the line. I've even worked with people from RuPaul's Drag Race. I mean, some of the top LGBTQ celebrities I have worked with. Justice can tell you, she's seen some of the stuff that I've done back then. And then now, I mean, I'm in a totally different industry. 4 years have gone by and stuff like that. And now all these stories are coming out about me. And I'm just like, well, I showed up to these events, I took my pictures, and I went home, and I volunteered my services. Why are you guys making up these stories about me?
Yeah.
And I think it's because because when you work in that field, I wanted to work with everybody. I didn't discriminate. All across the grid, I worked with everybody. So now all these people who didn't get a chance to work with me, it's all starting to come to the surface.
Yeah, I was telling you before the podcast about my situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of weird how people are like that.
Yeah.
But switch on a positive note, LA and Justice, when did you guys meet, Chuck? When was the first time you met Chuck?
Oh God, it's been
2017.
Okay, yeah, it feels like forever. It feels like I've known Chuck for forever.
We went through a pandemic, so that seemed like 3 or 4 years, right?
Exactly, right there in itself. Okay.
Yeah. We lost a year just because of that.
Right.
So that just tagged up, and that was a really long process. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I turned 40 during the pandemic, but I didn't count it, so,
I think everybody,
I'm still 39 right now. Still 39. So, but you met him back in 2017. What was the first show you guys worked on together?
Chuck, you know more of that history than I do. I blow his.
Did you do Pierre's show, or did you do?
I want to say it was Mercedes-Benz, but I think it was
Latina?
Even before that. I think it was Red Latina.
That was all in the same weekend.
It was. I was doing back
it was all
to
in the
back
same weekend.
back to back. We
I
were
was
both
too.
doing back to back shows.
Yeah, I had already been recruited for the Mercedes-Benz one, and then at the last minute, she had asked me to come photograph that one, and then the promoters had already reached out to me anyway. But that's when we really developed a friendship, and then further into it, like there was like a 4-month period where it was like nonstop, all the way up until New York Fashion Week.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's why when we were telling this story, this was at that point where we had surpassed all of that. This was at that point, that crowning moment in my career, that New York Fashion Week. Whenever that was a dream of mine since I was a kid. So going up there and doing that, I mean, she helped make that dream come true. She gave me the portfolio I needed to get into that. So it was like that, Mercedes-Benz, all of these things. There were so many of them, and even after that, I mean, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point like it's an explosive thing now, and it's like to the point now. It's like whenever things happen to me now, controversial things, my people reach out and they are supportive. I mean, I like pretty much it's ironclad at this point. But there was a point where my judgment was being questioned, and now I'm at that point. Like I think people understand us a lot more now since we did this show. And the amount of work that we put into it, and what we have is worth fighting for.
Right. This show is, I mean, just some of these we're into it right now.
Yeah. But it's like, it's like what the show is about. It's about conquering territory and then upholding it, like holding on to power. Like Caesar, he became a very powerful individual, but he couldn't hold on to that power. He had enemies. He upset people. He was, there were actions that he did that were a threat to people, like especially making allies with Egypt. That was a really big jump for him. That was really kind of one of the straws that broke the camel's back. And then, of course, having a child with her, that was another thing too. I mean, all of these things that led up to him being the Ides of March, that's a fascinating story right there. And, Cleopatra and her rise to power and her making the impact that she had on history that still stands to this day. But Cleopatra, the reason why we're so fascinated with her is because we're closer to Cleopatra than Cleopatra was to ancient times, to the gods and goddesses, Egyptian mythology. So she upheld that tradition to that point, to the point where she made her biggest impact on history, and that was the end of ancient Egypt. And this is when I knew this was a real big eye-opener for me, was how she immortalized herself on the walls of Egypt. You know how that Egyptian writing and those hieroglyphics and all that stuff, right then and there, that's when I realized that a lot of that stuff that was written down on those walls was propaganda, like political propaganda,
Even way back then?
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, look at the Caesar, all that.
Right.
They had politics and stuff back then. It's the same crap, different century.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Same old crap, different century. They had a democracy. They had a senate. They had all those things, just like us. They had a kingdom, all these things, As much as we want to believe that it didn't exist, it did. They were just as intelligent as we were.
Right. They needed some real STL news, right?
Yeah.
Right?
But Egypt was the place you went to for knowledge. They had the Great Library of Alexandria. And they said Cleopatra was written in several texts that she spent her entire childhood and all the way up into her teen years in the Great Library of Alexandria. It was like she knew she was going to be queen. She said her father told her it was her destiny to be queen. And so she knew, and she was the oldest. So, and then her brother came into power, and they had conflicts. And I think it was all like a whole vendetta that she wanted the throne for herself. And then her making relations with Caesar and all that, and trying to persuade Rome from invading Egypt, but developing allies instead. He could have easily taken Egypt. Wouldn't you say so?
I mean, I would think so. In the movies, it seemed like
it makes it true. Yeah. But I mean, she was able to use her sexuality and her intelligence and her, just her everything she is as a being, to her charm. And they said she wasn't the most attractive woman in the world, but she had charm and she had wit and she had ways of wooing men, and she was able to keep Rome away from Egypt and keep that tradition alive for as long as she could, to the point where, I mean, it ended Egypt. But she really fought really hard to preserve that tradition. But there was a piece on the wall. There's on a wall in Egypt, and it's a picture of her next to her son. Her son was one of the last pharaohs of Egypt, and then Cleopatra. She died next, and then there's a snake god right next to it. The snake god Pfouz. Now, if you look at if you listen to the story, and if you can look it up on YouTube as well. Pfouz was It was legend has it that Pfouz came back from the underworld and took her soul to the underworld, disguised as that snake that bit her. And that was her way of immortalizing and preserving the tradition of Egypt, because she knew that was the end. Her death was the end of ancient Egypt. but the traditions, the gods and goddesses, all that stuff still exists to this day. Which is why we're here talking about it in 2021. You know,
right?
So
the thing the trailer released, but the series is so you're gonna put all the videos together and incorporate the stuff you filmed on the screens with the stuff that we shot that day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So,
it's already released. It's on House of Chuck magazine.
Oh, it is. Okay,
yeah.
So we can cut to that at the end here and show some clips.
Yeah, so it's the entire show.
Right.
It's in 10 clips. We usually break them up because people don't have the attention span to watch more than 5 minutes.
Right, 5 minutes. Either they'll watch a 30-second TikTok or a 3-hour podcast. They'll listen to it. You know, it's either one or the other. Yeah.
I love documentaries. I had to break that during the pandemic. You forget, I had been working ever since I was 14 years old. So during the pandemic, when we had a break, I was really I was getting a little bit of anxiety of having, because I had my itinerary of what I needed to do for 2020, and then all of a sudden all that got shut down. So I was kind of like catching up on my rest and stuff like that, and working on House of Chuck magazine. I've been trying to work on House of Chuck magazine for 5 years, so I got that up and running during the pandemic while I was catching up on my rest and all that good stuff. So for me, I mean, it was a wonderful experience being at home because I've been on the road for God knows how long. So how was the experience for you guys?
That's the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I was enjoying the rest as well because we were go
Yeah.
nonstop. So.
Yeah, and then as soon as we were finished with our controversy fashion show, we were doing Kansas City within weeks. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and like here we are back on the road again. I mean, we just finished a project here in St. Louis. I really wanted to do another project in St. Louis, and then I wanted to kind of finish here and move to another city and start conquering other cities. So I thought this 10 years and this show and all of that, I thought that was a really wonderful ending for me, because if I ever do come back here, I got to create something twice as big as that.
That's going to be tough.
That is going to be tough.
That's gonna be
and
tough.
you guys have seen some of my other shows. Mm-hmm. It's become more difficult every time. So like, and the show that we're doing next, I mean, of course you guys are going to love that. I mean, it's about Hollywood, Hollywood's golden era. The golden era, post-war.
Yeah,
the golden age of cinema.
That's gonna be awesome, and that's gonna be in Chicago, right?
No, it's gonna be in Atlanta.
Atlanta, okay. Oh, okay.
See, I knew I was coming.
and when's the plan to have that?
Next May.
Next May.
I don't have a date yet. We're looking at venues right now. I want to do it in a theater. Just like we did in Chicago,
awesome,
and the Roaring Twenties one too.
Yeah,
I just love doing a fashion show in a theater. I fell in love with it after our Chicago show. That turned out so awesome.
it was amazing. Yeah.
Oh my god! And then we did our Roaring 20s show. We did it again with the Roaring 20s show, and you saw. Did you see that? The Roaring 20s one?
I've seen the clips of it. Yeah, I saw the clips.
Wasn't that just incredible? And that was a last minute. Actually, as a matter of fact, we had already booked a venue somewhere else, and then the city of Kansas City, stepped in and said, no, you need to have it here at this place, and we'll even give you a discount. And I was like, you betcha.
Heck yeah.
And then so I went there, and they showed it to me, and of course it's this really old antique old building, and then you go on the inside, state-of-the-art technology, the best stage, it was just...
Well, you get lucky with your locations. You find it's meant to be.
Well, when I told them because we had to do a press release. So I got April Flowers. She's a principal, and she knows and she's also a big time model in Kansas City. I mean, she's one of the top booked models in Kansas City. So she knew a lot of people, and she introduced me to some digital people, and then those digital people, the digital media people, introduced me to the people who run 18th and Vine, and they work for the city and all this stuff. And they pretty much told us, they were like, well, we'll just call that venue and tell them you can't have your show there. And so I was like, okay. I was like, well, I guess we're having our show here. And I had to send out an apology to my model saying, hey guys, sorry for inconvenience you guys again. And we got to have it here. And of course it wasn't a problem. And then we filmed it. And you were in a plane ride on the way there. You got caught up.
Yeah.
She was, because she's been in all of our shows. That was the only show that she wasn't in. But this story was a lot more of a that's why we gave her such a bigger role in the next one, because I mean, to not only make up for that, but because this was more like I said, I met Danielle and then I met her. And so after that, it just skyrocketed after that. I mean, it's like, I try to create each show like if something were to happen to me, it's a good ending. But I mean, we're going to keep going on for probably 2 more seasons, and then I'm going to create something else.
What made you want this location here? What was so important for you to do it there? Because you were talking about how like it was like on your bucket list. You went to do a fashion show here at this location?
I had already done it there before.
Oh, you have?
I have,
Okay.
and I never usually repeat venues, but I have a lot of haters in St. Louis, and they had worked with me before, and they knew what we were trying to create, and I knew that my haters couldn't get me canceled, get them to back out or anything like that. So by working, because I mean, they'll only be able to pull something like that off here in St. Louis.
Right.
So I mean, that's why we had it there. So I mean, and their contracts and stuff like that, they were very professional, and because I worked with some really horrible venue owners who just went ahead and took somebody's word on it, and the next thing I know, I couldn't have my show there.
Right.
And so like I just wanted to ensure these days it's like I took it on more of the role of a celebrity and less of a role of a regular person or a regular individual. So I have to be a little bit more wary of things. I have to be a little bit more careful about where I go, who I talk to, things like that. Who's going to sell me out to some newspaper, things like I have to worry about all of that now. I used to not have to do that. Like I can't even, there's certain places I can't even go anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've had all kinds of horrible things happen to me because of this type of light that's been shed on me, but I'd like to use it for good and not for bad.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, we just keep moving and create something, another chapter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I do. I just keep trying to keep doing show after show and just keep going. So
Yeah, I do too. And
Yeah.
eventually, the pain, what people say about you, eventually it just goes away. You know, but it does hurt you sometimes, especially when you're an artist and you're sensitive. Yeah. So, what do you got going on now?
Oh, I'm still pushing forward. I mean, show after show after show. Let's see. What is today now? That's just how busy
Monday
I am.
the 13th.
Yeah.
The
13th. Yes.
Okay, so
I
yeah.
have that issue too.
Yeah.
What day is it?
What day is it? Like, is it Monday or is it Friday? Like, I'm ready for the weekend, but even still on weekends, you're extra busy. So
Yeah, it seems like work's never stopping.
yeah.
I'll tell you what's funny is whenever we were up in Chicago working on our Grease project, and Jonathan Mayfield, he's the guy who played Anthony. He shows up and he's like, "What are we working on today?" And he's like, "Sorry, you send me so many emails and so many scripts. I don't know what we're working on." I was like, "Oh, it's no problem." And I showed him what we were working on. He's like, Grease. Oh, and it's been like that for probably a couple years now. It's like, what are we working on now? Things have changed so much since I met you, and of course, but leading up to that, I mean, is like that year, that 2017, it's one of my favorite years. I mean, 2018 was a beautiful year, but 2017 was that transitional year where you from one industry into another, and how going from one industry where that was kind of resentful and kind of hated me to another industry that loved me with all their heart and cherishes me and takes really good care of me. The fashion industry takes really good care of me. I think they like what I give them. And, like with the pictures, I go to these fashion shows and I photograph these events and I preserve all, it's like, there just ain't nothing like a good fashion show. These days, because of like what we do, they have to step their stuff up now too. So
Yeah,
There definitely needs to be more fashion shows in St. Louis.
there's a lot, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of the fashion shows that I was photographing during 2017, 2018. A lot of people didn't even know that those fashion shows even existed, and they had been around for years.
Yeah.
And like I was like, people didn't even know that St. Louis had a fashion scene. So for me, it was like unpacking the fashion scene, and I know all those people, and they're all coming back now. They're all coming out of the woodwork. And there was a scene in the Cleopatra movie where she was talking to Caesar, and she's like, "Oh, they're all coming out of hiding." All her people because remember she was banished to the desert, and she's supposed to die, and all this stuff. She ended up coming back, being brought back into the palace on a rug, and all her ministers started coming out of hiding, secret passageways. She's like, "There are doors." It was so that's kind of like the way it was with this show, and because the entire like everything was had pretty much died because of the pandemic, and then with this show all of my people were coming out of hiding, all of my because it was an all-star cast,
Right. It was amazing show. How long did it take that day to set up with all the lights?
all the way up until we started.
So what time did you guys get there that morning? Noon. Oh wow. Wow. 7 hours. It just
We ran out
Wow.
of time. We almost had, I think we even had to delay 15 minutes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. you
we
guys-
usually
yeah.
never do that.
Yeah.
And I even told them, I was like, you know what, guys? I was like, let's not worry about it. I was like, usually when something when something is on time, that means there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong here. We just need more time to get everything ready.
Right.
I thought this part right here was the most epic part of the night when she gets carried out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was really I was really keen on making sure that we put that in the show, the actual fashion show, and not film it. on like we filmed the other stuff. There were 3 or 4 things like Caesar dying, just these really, and her dying herself.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nobody fixed my tag.
I know. I just seen that too.
I had a tag sticking up in the back of my costume.
I saw that
That's
too.
too funny. Somebody's got to address me.
What was it? Yeah, I know. I usually check that stuff too. I was probably running around.
Oh, that's too funny.
Wasn't she amazing? And that it was like an
Yes.
all blue line,
Yeah, that's.
and then she had one gold piece with the blue trim on there. And
Who was
I thought
that designer?
Kristen Hardwick,
I love it.
and she just adored our show. She was just so captivated by it. I mean, just
Good.
people are like, this is the type of stuff I need to be doing. Sadly, there's very little of this out there.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, I found the other one. There's like 2 systems out there that actually do this, and I actually work with both of them.
I actually
so.
didn't realize until the day of that you were going to be doing this alternation. Like, here's a designer, and then here's more Egypt. Here's a
Right.
designer. I loved that. That was-
Yeah. So there was while the show was going on, while we were in backstage making our adjustments or whatever, nothing ever went off the runway. No, there was no delays or anything like that. I think there was maybe 5 or 6 minutes of Tony De La Couture's design where it was like we just did not have enough time. But that's it. And everybody, and I was sitting there talking on the microphone. I mean, nobody even knew the difference. You know.
Yeah, I liked how you were doing the announcement of like the fashion people, designers' names, and then you run around doing. I thought you had it recorded, but you're actually back there,
Yeah.
back there with
No,
the
I
mic,
learned
just,
that.
just running around with.
Now
the
you know
same-
how I learned that? Miko, who usually hosts our shows. Miko always did that. We were
Yes, he did,
backstage
yeah.
at our most frantic moments, and he'd be like, "Dee Dee Young will be right out in just a few minutes." And he would be upstairs. We would be upstairs in the back, like freaking out, like just running around like crazy people. The microphone would be off. He'd be sitting there trying to get everything situated, trying to write everything down on paper and everything like that. Dee Dee Young, and she'd be already at the bottom of the stairs getting ready to go on. All the music had to. It was so that Miko taught me that.
Right.
And then he's real big in the ball scene, so him talking over the music, it just it makes it sound like it's pre-recorded, but it's not.
Yeah, I thought it was because your timing was like it was on some kind of beat.
I know everybody thought I was acting, and I mean it was so funny. They're like, I didn't know you could act, and I was like, that wasn't acting. I was just talking.
Right.
Yeah. Is that something you guys would want to get into?
I love these side
Acting?
shots.
I would love to get into acting.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
actually a part of a few up and coming movies myself.
Are you?
so,
Oh,
yeah.
Can we say
Yeah.
on
I'd rather leave that to the.
leave that to them? Okay.
Yeah.
You want
yeah.
you want me to announce one that she's gonna be working on with me?
Sure.
She's gonna be doing a side story about Isis, the goddess Isis. We're gonna do
Okay.
a whole recast, and we're gonna create that whole entire story on film. You know, the whole thing. And we use these shows as entry points to do side films. You know, and we'll connect it right into the show, just like that. And some of our other side films, we've done probably about 4 different side films on House of Chuck magazine. You know, like the Vices and Virtues Ball and stuff like that. And we connected it into our show. We try to connect the universe together as much as possible. We spent probably about a year. We took a year in 2019 and connected it with one of my old drag shows that I did with Gray Fox. We actually brought back a lot of those entertainers, and we recorded visuals of them performing and put them in our fashion show, because I wanted to make sure that all of that universe was connected, because a great deal of what came out of that show is what gave birth to our fashion shows. And so when a lot of those entertainers had a big impact on me, so it was really important whenever I finally got to that moment when I was being recognized in a different setting. I wanted to make sure my people were taken care of. And then as we got further and further into the stories, because like I said, each show is a chapter in my career. So as we get further and further into these stories, as they get further and further to where we are now, things are becoming a lot more sensitive. And I think with this show was probably the most sensitive. And I think that was why it was really important to have all my cast members. Not to mention it was post-pandemic. I haven't seen everybody in a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
I was missing everybody. When we had our rehearsal the day of, there was a lot of hugging.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was a lot. It was electrifying.
Yeah.
Being in that room, being in the
Right.
rehearsal. We have a rehearsal that we rent at Utopia Studios. Being in that room for the first time, all of us together in a long time.
Wow.
It was very electrifying.
Yeah.
It was like a reunion. It was like a family reunion.
We just saw the death scene there. Tell me how that felt.
That was awesome. That was like so thrilling because we didn't rehearse that. Like that was just Chuck told us literally 20 seconds before we went on. Okay, I want this to happen. I want this to happen. I want this to happen. I was like, okay, got it. We're doing this. And the audience was loud, and I was
the shock. I think that
Yeah.
was the coolest thing is that the audience's reaction on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody was back there trying to peek through all the cracks, trying to see what was going on, because it was just we heard the direction, but we didn't get a chance to see it. So,
Right.
you know.
And I did an accidental perfect Italian accent when I said "E tu per te." It was my accent at that very moment was just. I would love
Sometimes
to
when you're
rehear it.
under pressure, I've learned this as a director, that sometimes when you're under the pressure and under the gun at that moment, you forget they had audience and cameras on them. Mm-hmm. So there was double the pressure, double the anxiety, not to mention they only had 20 seconds to rehearse it inside their head. Mm-hmm. So they just had to go out there and do it. And I mean, luckily, we had an all-star cast. These were all professionals. Like I said, we needed very little rehearsal to pull this off because they had so much research. Right. And I told them, I was like, guys, you want to rehearse? Watch the other shows. Right. Watch our previous shows. That's your rehearsal because that's the only way you're going to understand what we're dealing with here. And we have enough material now. They can watch the shows.
Yeah.
We don't need to have all these rehearsals.
And shout out to your co-host here. She's doing a great job.
Oh, yeah, I know. And that was the thing, too, getting to the point where she started taking over hosting as well. When Miko represents the LGBTQ years whenever I worked in the LGBTQ community, and then she represents my years in the fashion world because she, after she saw our first show at downtown, she joined us, and she has been a devotee ever since. She's done every show since. And so I try to make sure that I try to take care of the ones who have been with us the longest first.
Right.
Give her a more of a dominant role, like Isis. Isis is still talked about to this day in Egyptian mythology.
Right. Well, that's a good fair system because you reward the loyalty and then people in the.
Well, it's very cathartic too, watching them become sort of the stars of the show, and then you have this wonderful history of them throughout the show of their rise. Mm-hmm. So now she's the star of the show. Maya Anderson was a star of the show. Casey, she was the star of the show. She played Cleopatra. A lot of these all of them were stars of the show, but these were the more dominant ones who have been in the show the longest. So you get all these different side stories. And we established that when we did the Roaring 20 show, how much of these shows are connected through, we used that burlesque show as kind of as an entry point for Betty Boop, and Betty Boop was a Broadway dancer, and we kind of used that sort of as a segue, and we went into the burlesque show, and we took footage from the burlesque show, and we used that in the visual backdrops for the Roaring 20 show, and we made her out like she was just a regular girl who was getting ready, who had just walked in a show, and she was getting ready to prepare for a Broadway performance. And then when we started working on the Roaring 20s, we took that and built on top of that and created this whole entire backstory of Betty Boop leading up to the 1930 animated series. Because the real Betty Boop was a black woman,
right?
And it was a famous court case. This white actress tried to lay claim to her, and she ended up suing the studio for $400,000, and she ended up losing the case because the original girl ended up coming forward and testified in court, and they won the case. And it was just this whole story. It was fascinating. I couldn't put it down as far as I wouldn't let it go until I made a film about it or did something in retrospect to that.
Show by.
Yeah.
I think this is close to the end here of the fashion show.
Yeah.
Man, these outfits are just so amazing. I was just in awe with the outfits. So what happened after the show? Did you go home and go right to sleep? Did you did your adrenaline last the next day? How about you?
Yes. We packed everything up, took everything home. LA helped us pack up. I mentioned that in a post as well. We got out of there at a reasonable hour. I think we got home probably around maybe 11. Yeah. And then I didn't go to bed until later, and I tried to call off work and everything. I couldn't get off work, but they let me work from home. But yeah, I was still riding high. The next day I was trying to find stuff on the internet to look at, like pictures and selfies and backstage stuff and all that stuff, just kind of in awe of. Oh wait, yeah, and the film too. I forgot I had the film on me. I had recorded the film on one of my cameras, and I watched the film as well. I think I watched the film twice that night.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and then throughout the week I watched it probably 3 or 4 more times because I had to edit it and all that stuff.
Right.
But I watched it at least 2 or 3 times before I started editing it. And then I think the scene that stood out to me the most is when she went out there and gave a really nice spin And I started crying after that. I was like, oh my gosh, she did it. She did exactly the way that I wanted it. I really wanted her to really shine in this season, much more than more than in the Chicago show. The Chicago show, she really shined, but there was a lot of different emotions in her performance in that one. This one was total confidence, and that's the girl that I know. So but it's nice to tell those stories, to have all those different origin stories.
Yeah.
But this one was more of your. I like the one we did downtown, and then the one we did at the Glass Factory the first time.
Right.
I like to see those pictures and then these pictures.
Right. Yeah.
Your beginning and then your final picture.
Yeah.
And somebody did the same thing with me. They pulled a picture of me when I was a dancer. Whenever I first came into St. Louis as a dancer, and then they had a picture of me as an activist when I was in my mid-20s, really figuring myself out. And then there was a picture of me dressed in like my best in the fashion world in my early 30s. Your beginning, your middle, and then there's your final of where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And it was a nice growth process, looking at you in 3 different ways. And that's the way you get to look at a lot of these models, look at them in different ways in different shows and seeing different sides of them. Yeah. I tell you what, that Justice really pulled off the 3rd and 4th season really well, like the burlesque show, and then the Chicago show. She really was very dominant in the Chicago show especially. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Each show just tells a really amazing story.
Justice, get you to talk on here a little bit. Talk about your.
I know, and
talk
you
about
too, Webster.
Talk about your fashion experience. You do all types of things. You're like a musician, a host.
She does it all.
She does fashion. She's an influencer.
Yeah.
It's a mix of things. I didn't really want to take away from Chuck.
No, go ahead. Tell them what you do.
Well,
because you're an inspiration.
I do have a single that's coming out next Friday. It is Suicide Awareness Month. It is a song about suicide. So I'm pretty excited about that. It was supposed to come out at the beginning of this month, but there was some things that happened, and some deadlines were missed. But outside of that, I am really, I don't want to say excited, but I'm ready for it to come out. I have experienced suicide before in my family and with friends, so I do want to get that message out. And I know depression is real, so I definitely wanted to put my hand into it, because I know there's people out there that are dealing with it, and then the people who are left afterwards hurt. So that I have that coming out. I do have a single that is out now with the video as well. It came out a few months ago. It's called Soul Amazing.
And I think somebody's featured on that. I've seen that one. Right? Is it all by yourself, or I thought you had featured artist with you on that?
I saw the trailer.
It's all me. Okay, I do have an artist that I had
it's because
there's a local artist that was in it, the male model, and that was Bodine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's what. Maybe I was thinking that.
Yeah, but he wasn't in the song. He was just the male model of the video.
Okay.
That was my first video, so it was pretty exciting. I flew out to California.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. That must be Talk about that experience. We just seeing anybody famous out there.
Congratulations, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you deserve it.
Yeah.
All the blessings. You have done a lot for a lot of people, and just the fact that you're doing this now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you should have done this years ago. You had all the power in the world to do it years ago. The fact that you're waiting until now is even more humbling, because you could have done it then and really capitalized, and now you're really. I think a lot of times these things come to us when we're ready. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who has, I almost took my own life last year, and thank you for this. I really do appreciate it, because with my cyberbullying database, I deal with this stuff all the time. I mean, people, they're so quick to take to the internet and, instead and dealing with their problems on the internet than actually dealing with their problems head on, face to face, privately.
Yeah.
We need an audience. And then when we need an audience, everybody reads that and they start spreading these false narratives. And then, at that point, and then people start it goes further and further and further to the point where this person loses everything and then has nothing left to live for, to where they lose their own life. As somebody who's been there, I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go ahead and put that on her. Put that on her.
So over at Shaw, the jewelry here that was in the show. So
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting here making sure.
All right, what can I try on?
Oh,
Let's see.
sure. Here, Webster, why don't you put this on?
We got 10 minutes left here, so let's try to.
Why don't you put this on, Webster?
Oh my god.
There we go.
So effeminate.
I know.
No, see,
It's
crooked.
just me.
It's flipped. How did it get
I
flipped?
think it's flipped.
No, I can't check. This is too much. Do you
Okay.
have something a little less?
I do
That's
like
better.
this one.
Yes.
You can't really see because the bandana.
Okay, why don't you give him that one, and why don't you
That
take
one's
this
yeah.
one?
Which one?
Okay.
This one?
I'll go with your shirt now.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
And then
You know what? I can't tell.
this.
Oh, there's
It
no
might not have
clasp
been
on it.
flipped.
Oh, so I'll just have to
Oh yeah, that's
pull my
right.
chest open.
And then these actually came from a museum over in Egypt, and I'm actually going to be sending them back soon.
Oh, wow, those are pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, and Webster
I do
had it
see
repaired for
someone
me.
This thing's kind
online.
of.
They're saying that they can't hear.
Just get a little.
Get a little close up.
It's the audio went out, so I got it's recorded to a backup. So when this is done, I'll put it back up with the audio.
Okay.
So it is a silent film to them right now, but I promise you it'll be re-uploaded.
Okay.
It's problems with broadcasting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
technical
If I
difficulties.
was to do some weird stuff, they wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
You could.
Is there another one? There was another one.
This is really pretty though.
There was another one.
I do like that.
Yeah, uh-huh.
It looks heavy, but I like it.
You're heavy, no.
Right, earrings said heavy. Pull up.
Anyways, so
Oh, it's
yeah,
not heavy.
and then here. This is Bastet. This is the mask that we got. They're kind of
From my nose like a puppet.
Was that a male or female one?
a female. And then this is the ISIS hat that I had her
It
wear.
actually might go though.
Get that for you. Yeah, you can hold it up now. It's got the.
So the whole time I'm sitting there watching myself, and all I can see is myself touching my nose like this. And you know, with it not having any sound, it's like.
But yeah,
Right,
but yeah, pretty much what we're doing. I mean, next is, I'm going more into Marilyn Monroe's story and seeing how badly she was falsely portrayed in the media, and how she was a real bad victim of the casting couch. And I don't think any of that ever left her, and I think that's what led to her, not only her downfall, but her suicide. Just the whole, carrying something like that around with you all that time and not being allowed to express yourself, because she was a part of Hollywood and she was so monopolized in the sense that, millions of people were making money off of her name. You know what I mean? Who she was. I'm sitting there and I'm looking through her extraordinary life, and she had done so much. I see pictures from everything. I think that at that point, man, when they took it all away from her near the end, because at that point, when it was near the end, I don't think she had anything to look forward to. Not to mention she wasn't allowed to grow old on camera, so she had to be forever preserved as this icon. And then so, like you see Madonna and Cher, they're not allowed to grow old gracefully, like the way women are supposed to. Okay, so they have to preserve this image for as long as possible. And I saw a documentary on Mae West, it was the same thing. It was so sad that Hollywood did not allow them to grow old like they should, because there are great parts out there for older women now. But back then they didn't do those things, so they had to be sexy all their lives. And that's really awful to have to put a woman through that when they should be allowed to play mothers and grandmothers and these type of, sorceresses and just all kinds of really brilliant parts out there for talented actors who have really paved the way for others. Like I could see a story that I felt really in particular that really related to me was when she did Some Like It Hot. Okay, and Some Like It Hot was a comedy, and she had received some advice from a really good friend of hers named Shelley Winters, who was an actress at the time. She was her roommate, and she said, if you do this movie, if you nail this part, you could quite possibly have a job for the rest of your life. And the reason why is because she had done so many of these sex bot like roles that she had never done like a comedy like this. And you know, comedy is one of the most difficult things you could ever do in acting because it's all about timing.
It's all about timing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and so I watched the several documentaries about the making of that film, and then interviews of the people of Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon and all that stuff. And they said that she was backstage with Lee Strasberg, really working really hard trying to nail it. And they said that she would show up late to the set because she would be backstage rehearsing because she really badly wanted to nail this. And when I watched the film, she was a lot more free. She was a lot more loose. She was a lot more relaxed. Right. It seemed like she was really trying really hard to live up to the person who she had turned herself into, because it seemed like she always wanted to be famous. She was always trying to escape her past. And she was really shy, and I think she was really shy on camera, according to everybody who knew her at that time. Because whenever I started doing research into this, I wanted to talk to the people who actually worked with her and her husband and things like that. I feel like I'm interviewing these people, even though they're long dead. But these are the people who had, even her husband, what's his name? Arthur Miller. He said this about her too. Near the end, he talked about more of her near the end. I'm talking about a triumph in her career as far as Some Like It Hot and how hard she worked, and then she won a Golden Globe for this performance. And she got rave reviews. I mean, the director loved her, all of that. And, you know, they were complaining about how many takes it took for her to nail her spot, and they were complaining about how long it took her to be ready, but she wanted to be ready. She wanted to nail it each time. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't see that as difficult, wanting to nail your part, wanting to get it right, wanting to look good on camera. I don't see anything difficult about that. Do you?
No, when I do my comedy, I do like 5 or 6 takes because you only need one good one.
So. Yeah.
So I only need one good one. So
and that's the way she was too. She was just trying to get it right. And back in those days, they didn't do those things. It was like it was either one and done. And they said that director was really frustrated with her. And then of course, when the film came out, he was extremely grateful for her because she did it, and she did it to the best of her ability. And it was one of her. It's probably the most iconic performance in her career.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah. But there were several other ones, but that was the pinnacle in her career, and she won a Golden Globe, which is a great triumph in her career because she died so young. She was only 36 years old when she died.
I think I can't remember. Yeah, it was some mid-30s. Yeah.
Yeah, she was really young, and it's just a really sad story. And I want to, just from interviewing the people who knew her, and the self-destructive side of her that a lot of people don't know about. I don't think anybody killed her. I think she killed herself. I think that you
don't believe in the conspiracy theories on that one?
No, and the reason why I don't is because she tried to kill herself twice before. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is she had reached out for help many times and could not get the help she deserved. She was abused, marginalized by the Hollywood system. She was marginalized by the media. She had divorced 3 times. I don't think she had anywhere to turn. All her friends were a part of the system. I don't think she had anywhere to turn. And I think after she sang "Happy Birthday" to the president, and you forget, his dad owned the theaters. His dad owned Hollywood at one point. He had connections throughout. Of course, she was done as far as her career, and not to mention she couldn't grow older. I think like what everybody else says about her, she was doomed. And then the famous Vogue pictures that were published in Vogue magazine were published as she died. She literally played herself out on camera, and it's so funny. The fashion community is what preserved a great deal of her legacy as well. But she's still a legacy to this day. I mean, it's just amazing the impact of her short life. And how much of that resonates with us to this day, just like Cleopatra. Mm-hmm. You know, they were the celebrities of that time period. How much of that connects into this story, and just the preservation of, like, she's still an icon to this day. She had problems, just like everybody else. I think that's what makes us love her more, is the fact that she had problems.
What makes it timeless too, that same problems with like Maryland is today, with the Me Too and and the way the media is
definitely if we had that back then, and everybody talked about the casting couch all the way up until this past decade, and nobody did anything about it. That disturbs me. And here we're unpacking Marilyn Monroe. How many more women out there do we need to unpack?
Right.
Okay. Marilyn Monroe was very good at what she did. She was very powerful, and her media was very. I didn't know that she was a nuclear activist. Did you know that?
I didn't know.
She was. Things like that. There's a lot of things out there. She was bright and bubbly and giggly, and they said her personality was totally opposite of what they say about her. So a part of me wants to believe that. I think the depression stuff kicked in a little bit later, probably after Some Like It Hot, and probably between Some Like It Hot and all the way up until she died. Something went wrong somewhere. And like even Arthur Miller said that somewhere along the line, something took a turn. But I mean, the conspiracy theories, I don't know. I have a hard time believing it. And the reason why is 'cause she tried to kill herself twice before. So, I mean, she suffered from depression. Depression ran in her family. Her mother was in and out of mental institutions, never knew her father. A life of, never being good enough. Men passed her around like she was pasteurized cheese. I mean, it was just, that stuff stays with you. And when you're a woman, back in those times, women did not have an outlet like the way they have today. Women have so much more, and even that's not enough. There's still women out there being marginalized.
Right.
But this particular situation, I feel like there was nothing that she could do at this point. There was nowhere else to go but down. And that's what people don't understand what it's like to be backed into a corner. Justice, I'm sure your story is. I'm sure you guys can shed a light more on that about what it's like to be backed into a corner.
I've had way too many things.
It's
just what to do. I mean, when you're.
We'll finish. We'll wrap in 5 minutes. It's still streaming, but let's wrap up in 5 minutes. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My computer.
I can make it short. When it really depends on the person. If your intentions are good, and you're backed into a corner, you stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I can't speak on anyone, if your intentions aren't good, but people back you into a corner for many reasons. So it depends on what it is, whether it's jealousy, whether it's greed, whatever it is. So the only thing that I can say is to stay strong, stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone thinks about me or, anything like that. So I think that's why I've never felt like I was backed into a corner. It's just the negative attitude and the negative responses, and they just get ignored. So, I mean.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's, since the Me Too thing has gotten better with the industry and fashion and just from what you've seen?
According to, just some of the research.
With the photographers and stuff that's insane.
No, not at all.
Okay.
God, no.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. Because I combat this. I deal with this on a daily.
I still see it.
People complain to me about me not talking about this stuff in my social media posts, but I deal with it every day. There's things that I deal with every day that I don't talk about because I don't want to hurt people. I don't want them to be in distress. I want you guys to know the good things that we're doing, but I deal with this all the time. I hear this stuff all the time. As a gay man, I'm kind of in the middle. I see exactly what a man wants in a woman or what a woman wants in a man. And, so it's like I see differently outside looking in than I would somebody like, a straight person, a straight couple. A lot of times people don't exactly see their intentions, but I see it. And of course, straight couples can see the intentions of two gay people and things like that. They can see more outside looking in because they're not a part of it. See, and we can be so easily blinded by rumors, lies, all these things. It's the same way around. But outside looking in, we see things differently. So it's like, it's just I can't even. I hear in Hollywood they have a thing called an intimacy coach. Or an intimacy counselor or whatever, and they counsel these actors and actresses on how to get through these situations on camera without it being awkward or anything like that. Because we still got to make movies, we still have to entertain, we still have to make it look real, and we don't want they don't want a lawsuit or anything like that. So I'm hearing Hollywood is changing Hollywood because they don't want to avoid a lawsuit. But these photographers, oh my God, I don't even.
We could have a whole podcast probably about that one.
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know where to start with that. It's just like and it makes me look bad as a photographer because they're photographers, Right. So like I have to protect it. Like, so I have to, whenever I find out about this stuff, I make sure I write it down at least, Right. Yeah. So anyways, I guess, the new show is out. It's on, season 6 is out. It's on House of Chuck magazine. I hope you guys tune in to watch it. It's amazing. It's probably one of the greatest experiences of my life. And, I'm glad that we took an entire year to work on it and really do it justice, instead of rushing it like, something like, a show within 3 months or something. I just don't think that's enough time to work on something like this.
Right. No, you can tell just when I seen the show. There's so much love important in this show here. So.
Oh yeah.
And you broke up in different trailers, I see. So there's for people's attention span, which is nice.
Well, those are just trailers.
Okay, but
yeah, those are just previews of the show. If you go into Maximum Exposure Fashion Series,
okay. So you click on this.
and if you scroll down, you get each show,
Oh, okay.
and then it's like a DVD menu almost. And then you click on season 6. Did you guys even know this even existed?
Yeah.
Did you, Justice?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
Oh wow, that's good.
And you could scroll down and you could watch
Nice.
each part.
Nice. Wow, you put a lot of work in this.
Of course.
Just from an editor's point of view, that takes a lot of work.
Of course. I'm an editor in chief.
Yeah, so amazing. So definitely, please, folks, check that out.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to say before we leave?
No.
We had
No.
people watching. They're going to watch this later. I know there's audio difficulties and technical things. I can't believe 200 podcasts and I get Chuck on here and my my computer messes up when Chuck's here.
That's me. Born on Friday the 13th.
I know.
This is the 13th, you know.
Right, that part.
But so if you're watching this, this isn't live. It's gonna be pre-recorded because I gotta sync this audio to it and re-upload it. But
I can't wait to see it.
yes, and I'll send you the copy of the.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you
having
guys.
me.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
got to come back and you can talk about all your stuff you're working on, Justice.
I would love to.
Yeah. So, great. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Please
Hey,
subscribe
you're
to the
welcome,
Daily
baby.
Dirt with Dustin Diggs, and we are out.
Welcome, baby. Let's disarm you.
Go dummy, go beast on them. I go beast. Go deep, I OD on them. Apply pressure, put heat on them. Put that 500 degrees on them. Countdown, levitate. Going up, elevate. Watch me demonstrate. On time, never late. I grind, celebrate. No pump, fake, hesitate. I've been scoring every day. Champagne Perrier. Since 9-3, been in the box, now I'm stepping up to home. Like straight out the sand lot, now I'm plotting on the globe. Go beast.